Hi friends, it's Deanna Willison with Our Blooming Catholic Life, and today I'm here with the third in our weekly series on Lectio Divina. We're looking at the Gospel according to St. Luke. We're in chapter 9, and I believe we're in verses 29 through 31. Let's grab our prayer journals so we can begin, as we always do, with St. Francis's prayer before the crucifix. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Summe glorioso Deus illumina tenebras cordis mehi et da mihi fidem rectum spem certum et caritatem perfectum Domini ut facium tuum sanctum et verax mandatum. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. And whilst he prayed, the shape of his countenance was altered, and his raiment became white and glittering. And behold, two men were talking with him, and they were Moses and Elias, appearing in majesty, and they spoke of his decrease that he should accomplish in Jerusalem. And while he prayed, the shape of his countenance was altered, and his raiment became white and glittering. And behold, two men were talking with him, and they were Moses and Elias, appearing in majesty, and they spoke of his decrease that he should accomplish in Jerusalem. And while he prayed, the shape of his countenance was altered, and his raiment became white and glittering. And behold, two men were talking with him, and they were Moses and Elias, appearing in majesty, and they spoke of his decrease that he should accomplish in Jerusalem. And friends, I just finished making the video on Recollection, and so this is really speaking to me, because here is Jesus taking time apart with just a couple of his friends, and then even then he walks away from him. He goes a little bit further up the mountain to pray and spend time with God. And what happens? He is transfigured before their eyes. Now, when we go off in prayer, I don't know that we are literally transfigured in the way that Jesus is. But here it says even Elias and Moses are appearing in majesty. So what is it like when we really take that time to set ourselves apart from the world, focus on God? Are we made pure? Are we made white and glittering and beautiful? You'd hope that you are in your interior, right? And that's the goal of Recollection, is to really set ourselves apart and to purify our hearts as best we can. It may involve an examination of conscience and during the confession, everything we just talked about in that video earlier today. I think I called it, what is Recollection? Beginner's Thoughts. And so that's what we're doing. We're doing all that to purify our hearts, to offer them more perfectly to God. We want to be more perfect like Jesus here. We want our countenance to be altered. I don't know about the shape of our countenance being altered and our raiment becoming white and glittering, but I think we've all seen people who spent a long time on retreat or something, and they come out and they're just a little different, aren't they? And isn't that something we all want? You've seen someone and you're like, whatever they have, I want. I know people who entered the secular Franciscan order because they knew a Franciscan and were like, I don't know what's different about that person, but I want that. And that's what we want people to say about all of us Christians, right? All of us Catholics. We want our neighbors to say, whatever that is, I want it. And so we talk about how do we evangelize out in the world, and what does that look like? Do we need to set up a St. Paul Street evangelization booth? What do we need to do? How are we going to evangelize in our community? But perhaps it is by focusing a little bit on our spiritual life, focusing on God, and so that we radiate that joy and beauty, and we aren't as anxious about things anymore, and we're somehow transformed. And people say about us, whatever that person has, that's what I want. Didn't know I was going here today. Didn't know I was going to say that. That's something that somebody's been questioning me about lately. How are we going to evangelize? How are we going to evangelize our community? Our parish, friends, is not just the people who come to our church. They're everyone who lives in that geographical boundary. They are our parish. And how do we reach out and serve them and minister to them? It does involve our own transformation. So you may feel that you're not doing anything if you're just leading a parish Bible study, but you are. That's nice to know, isn't it? that is nice to know. And hopefully you're changed when you go out into the world. And I am going to invite you to check out that video on a day of recollection and just even a moment of recollection. If you are taking care of a loved one who is ill or handicapped in some way and you can't take a whole day or afternoon of recollection, perhaps you can do it for a while in your home using headphones. Perhaps you can come up at least a few minutes before you come to Mass. I pray that you're getting to Mass. If you're only able to do Mass on TV, and I know that's a lot of you, and I am not judging you for that at all. Hopefully you're talking with your priest so that you can still get regular visits with communion and opportunities for confession. I hope that you're doing that. But if you are watching at home or unable to go in person to Mass, still take some time for recollection before that Mass begins. Sometimes EWTN or others, EWTN has that really long intro on theirs with the bells ringing and stuff. Don't you always feel different? You can skip that. You can fast forward, or mute your TV for that bit, whatever. But I invite you, I think that ringing of the bells kind of used to do that. It's like, oh, have I stop to recollect myself? Okay, the bells kind of set us apart from the world, right? They are kind of otherworldly, and they kind of help set us apart. And that can be your call to recollection as well. If you live in a town that still rings the bells on a regular basis throughout the day, God bless you. Use that as your call. If you live in an area, we know many areas have mosques that are ringing bells to call the Muslims to pray. You pray too at that time. You take that as a moment, even if you're just doing a small ejaculatory prayer like, Jesus, Mary, I love you. Use it to say an Our Father. Say the Our Father throughout the day. We all know that was the go-to in the olden times. If you couldn't say the Liturgy of the Hours, you would say 12 Our Fathers. You could do that. That was called the Office of the Pater. And if you have a little bit more time, do it an 12 Our Fathers, 12 Hail Marys, 12 Glory Bees, and whether you do those sequentially or integrated, however that looks for you. Just some really great practices. Try and have holy images around you. Try and have a crucifix in every room. That's whatever work you're doing, you can glance up and, even if it's just a moment of recollection, let yourself be transformed by Christ. Oh, friends, may God bless you and keep you. May He make His face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the good Lord bless you. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen.